Hi everybody, this is Shri and welcome back to my channel Vedic Living. Today we'll be talking about the Nakshatra Rohini. Now before we go into the details of the Nakshatra Rohini, I want to remind you quickly about my website. Make sure you go to my website. You can use the free chart calculator to calculate your chart to see if you have your moon in Rohini or any other planets in Rohini, because remember, depending on the planet that's placed in that particular nakshatra, the area that is governed by that planet will be impacted or flavored by that nakshatra. Now, if your moon is in nakshatra, in India, we follow the lunar calendar. So usually we talk about, when we say my nakshatra is Rohini, we say it actually means that the moon is in that nakshatra. So that does make sense, because when somebody's moon is in a certain nakshatra, the moon symbolizes your emotions, your feelings, how you react to things at a very deep level. So if your moon is in a certain nakshatra, that means that you react to things or you feel about things with the flavoring of how that nakshatra behaves. So that's why, the moon being there is pretty strong. But if you have any other planets there, the areas governed by those planets can be flavored by the nakshatras. For example, if you have sun in a certain nakshatra, then your ego, the way you interact with people, your kind of like your self-esteem, what you kind of portray to the world, that becomes, flavored by that nakshatra. If your ascendant is in a certain nakshatra, it's who you are. So that's how people see you as, the flavorings of that nakshatra will be in that, on the ascendant. So depending on which planet you have there, remember, you can still display some of the characteristics of this nakshatra in that area that's governed by that planet. So if you want to see if you have any planets in Rohini, you can go to my free chart calculator on my website and do the calculation and see if you have any planets falling in the degree markings that I'm going to give you in a little bit. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, when you're at my website, make sure you sign up for my free newsletter. I have not yet sent out the predictions for August. I'll be doing that next week. So sign up for my newsletter so you can get the detailed predictions from my website. When I do my YouTube predictions for a month, I kind of keep it short and concise, but my newsletter will have a lot more details in it. So make sure you sign for my newsletter. Okay. Now, going on to the Nakshatra Rohini, I want to talk about this in great detail, because I have to tell you, this nakshatra is actually one of the most prominent ones in the sky. I think the only other one that kind of comes close to Rohini would be Jeshta, which is directly opposite from it. Rohini is called the red one. Many reasons why it's called that. Because this nakshatra falls, let me give you the degree markings. It's between 10 degrees of Taurus and around 23 degrees of Taurus. So it's completely in the sign of Taurus, okay? 10 degrees to 23 degrees. So when you look at the free chart calculator on my website and you calculate your chart, if you have any planets between 10 degrees and 23 degrees of Taurus, then that means it's in the nakshatra Rohini, okay? Now, the reason I wanted to tell you that this nakshatra is completely in the sign of Taurus is because, remember, it's called the red one. The star that's most prominent in this nakshatra or in this constellation is Aldebaran. Okay, Aldebaran is a red-colored bright star in the sky, and the symbology of Taurus is the bull, as you know. Aldebaran is the eye of the bull. It's the red-colored eye of the bull. And this is one of the main stars, fixed stars, in the nakshatra of Rohini. It's very important. This is why Rohini is called the red one, okay? Now, the symbology of Rohini is a chariot that's drawn by the ox, okay? Now, when I talk about the mythology, you'll kind of understand why this is the symbology, okay? Whenever you think of a chariot or anything that's been drawn by an animal, you have to remember it's a person who has a lot of drive and ambition, and it's movement, right? When you're thinking about a chariot, it's movement, it's cardinal, right? It's not something that's static, it's not earth, it's cardinal. So that's very important. Okay. Now, the deity of Rohini is Brahma, or sometimes they say it's Prajapati. Prajapati Daksh was Brahma's son. Brahma was one of the Trinity gods, Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. Brahma is the creator, the great creator. They say that he created this entire universe in his sleep. So he's the great creator, and his son is Daksh Prajapati. So I've seen the deity being sometimes Brahma or sometimes Daksh Prajapati. Okay. Now, the main mythology around this is Daksh Prajapati was considered to be the first man created, and he was in charge of establishing society and societal norms on the planet Earth. Okay. Now, when he was created, of course, he gave rise. His children were the mountains and the stars, and so he everything came out of him. He came out of Brahma, the creator, and everything else came out of Daksh Prajapati. Now, he and his wife Prasuti, who was considered the first female in Hindu mythology, they had a lot of children. They gave rise to the rivers, there were the oceans, the mountains. They were all considered to be Daksh and Prasuti's kids. Okay. But one set of children that they had were the nakshatras, the 27 nakshatras. So if you go back and watch the video on when I first did the introduction of the nakshatras, you'll kind of see the similar story. It's a little different what I'm going to tell you now, but similar story over there. Okay. So they gave birth to the 27 nakshatras, who are the children of Daksh and Prasuti. Now, these 27 daughters were married to Chandra, who is the moon god. Okay, so they all had one husband. Now, in order to be fair to each wife, Daksh was very adamant when the marriage happened. He told Chandra, or the moon god, that, look, you have to make sure you're fair to all of my children, all of my daughters, and you have to spend an equal amount of time with each one of them. So the moon said, okay, sure, and he said he will spend one day with each nakshatra. So that's why the nakshatras are called lunar mansions, because the moon spends one day in each nakshatra. So in India, when we use the lunar calendar, I wish I had an example to show you. I used to have one. In India, pretty much every household has a lunar calendar. But if you look at the lunar calendar, you'll see the date, and underneath that, you will see the nakshatra, because each nakshatra, the moon is in that nakshatra for one day. Okay. Now, the moon said, I'll spend one day with each nakshatra. And that's why the nakshatras are the lunar mansions. But as time went on, Moon realized that he loved Rohini more than the remaining sisters. Okay, Rohini was his favorite because she had a zest for life. She was happy and she was excited and she had passion and she was just such a positive force, right? And I'm going to come to the characteristics of this particular nakshatra because it's all kind of mirroring the same qualities that this daughter of Daksh, Rohini, had in the mythology and in the scriptures. Okay, so I'll come to that. But because of all these qualities that she had, Moon was very comfortable there. So the Moon slowly started spending more and more time in that nakshatra. Now, as the other daughters watched this, they became jealous and they became hurt. So they went to their father Daksh and said, he's spending too much time with Rohini and he's not paying any attention to us. And Daksh said, that goes against what he agreed to me. So Daksh goes ahead and places a curse on the moon god and says, you are going to reduce in size day by day until you're non-existent. Okay, so in essence, the moon was dying based on this curse that was placed on him. Now, the moment his wives, the 27 nakshatras, heard about this, even the ones who complained about him, they all got upset. They all were sad. They said, no, we cannot have our husband die. We didn't mean for this to happen. So they ran to their father and said, you need to reverse this curse. You need to take it back. And of course, Daksh said, a curse once it's placed cannot be taken back, right? Once it's done, it's done. So I can't do anything about this. So then they go to the Lord Shiva, who was one of the Trinity gods, as I said. So Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. Shiva is considered the great destroyer. And they went to him and they threw themselves on his feet and said, you need to help us, right? Our husband is dying. He only has a few more days left to live. Shiva said, it's not possible to completely reverse a curse that's been placed on an individual, but I may be able to lessen its magnitude, right? So I may be able to save your husband from dying because the moon is required. He plays a very important role in the stability of this planet, right? The gravitational pull between the moon and the earth is responsible for the tides. And, we have the reflection of the sun's light happening with the lunar surface. It's very important. The moon is hugely important in the existence of this planet. So Shiva is also, concerned about that, right? He doesn't want the moon to die completely. So he tells the daughters, what you need to do is you need to do the Mahamrityunjaya Homam. Now, this is, let me explain a little bit about this particular mantra. Okay, it's called the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. Mrityu means death and Jaya means victory. So this mantra in the scriptures, it literally gives a person victory over death. And it's very widely used and practiced in India. Okay, and there are lots of yagyas and rites and rituals where this particular mantra is used because it really does cause the lessening or the reduction of negative effects in a person's life, be it health-related stuff or whatever, because the Mrityunjaya Homam is basically a yagya, or the Mrityunjaya mantra is for one person to get victory over death. And I have a lot more mythology stories about this mantra, which I know you guys will be really interested in, and I'm going to bring it to you later. But for the purpose of this nakshatra, we are going to talk about it only in this context right now. So Shiva said, all the wives need to do this Mrityunjaya mantra, and it's going to help in reducing the effect of this curse. So the wives, they, started doing the mantra, which is to conquer death. And as they did the mantra, the moon slowly and slowly regained his vitality and he came back to life. But because of the curse that was placed by Daksh, the moon will, every 15 days, it will reduce in its size to nothing. But then because of the Mrityunjaya mantra that his wives did, it increases in size and comes back to full moon. So it kind of oscillates between the new moon and full moon throughout its lifetime, right? So this is the reason for the waxing and the waning moon. Now, the Nakshatra Rohini is the center point of the story. That's why this is the mythology for Rohini. And the very fact that the moon is so happy with Rohini tells us that if you have your moon in Rohini, it's considered in its strongest position, moon is extremely happy and comfortable in that particular position. So that's good. The characteristics of Rohini are all very much it's related to the characteristics of the daughter Rohini of Daksh Prajapati. So extremely intelligent. People who have Rohini Nakshatra are very intelligent, very enthusiastic. They have this excitement, like a zest for life and like a bubbliness, and they have a passion. They are very sensible and sensitive because the moon is really good there. They have great sexual magnetism because that's one of the things that the moon was very attracted to, right? They appreciate things that are of high quality because this is in the sign of Taurus, which is at the end of the day ruled by Venus. So there is great appreciation for the finer things, for the luxurious things in life. They appreciate things of fine quality. And people who have Rohini Nakshatra are great hostesses. They are very graceful. They're full of grace. They're very classy people. They have strong materialistic tendencies, though. Okay, remember that, because this is the earth sign, Taurus. Taurus is all about materialistic kind of interests. Okay, and it's ruled by Venus. So of course, they're going to love everything that's beautiful and luxurious and materialistic. They have strong materialistic tendencies. They want to always gather a lot of good stuff in life, but this is extremely fertile. This is the nakshatra that has to do with fertility, prosperity, wealth. Okay, so moon in the nakshatra Rohini is good. Now, one of the challenges I would say with the Rohini nakshatra is too much of materialism can also be a little bit of a difficult thing, because right across from this nakshatra is Jyeshta in the sign of Scorpio. And Jyeshta is all about the opposite of Rohini, right? Very spiritual, very like dark magic, occult, metaphysical. So both these are extremes. So with Rohini, a person can be very extremely materialistic minded. Okay, so that's one thing that they have to balance. But yes, it's a very positive nakshatra at the end of the day. So that was my assessment on the nakshatra Rohini. I hope you enjoyed it, and come back in a few days. I'll be having my August predictions up, and don't forget to sign up for the monthly magazine, the astrology magazine, which I'm an editor for. And there are the beautiful articles. I can't believe the inflow of amazing articles that come in for this magazine every single month. And it's, the articles are written by some of the best minds in this field, in astrology and palmistry and yoga, Reiki, meditation, tarot, dreams. I've seen all kinds of articles come through. It's everything to do with metaphysical studies. And, we'll have our next issue for this magazine going out on the 1st of August. So make sure you go to the link under this video and sign up for the magazine too. All right. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I'll see you next time.